This is Unit 7, Skeletal, Muscular, and Integumentary Systems. Let's talk about it. So, skeletal system, used to support the body, protect major organs, movement, also a very important part of the skeletal system. Mineral reserves, stores things like calcium and phosphorus for the body's needs, and then blood cell formation, very important part of the skeletal system. Several functions for the skeletal system. What are the divisions of the skeletal system? Well, you got the axial nervous system. You got the axial skeleton. This is the skull, backbone, and ribs. You've got the appendicular skeleton, the shoulders, arms, hips, and legs. And so how do you know that? Well, appendage. Think appendicular appendage. That's the appendages, and then axial, like an axis of the center axis of the body, skull, backbone, and ribs. Moving on. So you have a couple things with bone anatomy. We're not getting into a lot of the details here because it'd be really easy to do that. So osteocytes are just basic bone cells. What is their job? They maintain the bone. And so this is the living portion of the bone. A lot of bone is just minerals and that sort of thing. And so the osteocytes are the living portion of this. And then you have two different cells called osteoclasts and osteoblasts. Osteoblasts build up new tissue. Think blast, build. Both start with a B. Osteoclasts are going to break down and recycle old bone tissue. And so osteoclasts and osteoblasts are constantly working together to maintain and renew your bones, your skeleton. This is the difference between like an exoskeleton, which is dead, an endoskeleton, living, alive, always renewing. And then some of the bone marrow. Here's a special slide just for bone marrow. Two kinds of bone marrow. This is some material found inside the bone. The red marrow is where red blood cells are made, and the yellow marrow is mostly fat. So just like fat stores. That's why dogs like bones so much. Moving on, cartilage. Cartilage is like flexible connective tissue, but it's tough. And so think just about as tough as bone, but a lot more flexible, so it gives the same kind of support and protection, but it's also flexible. Now, not all cartilage is that way. There's three kinds of cartilage. We're not going to learn any of them, though. We're just learning cartilage as a general catch-all term. And then there's this thing that happens to you. As you get older, you become less and less cartilage and more bone. This process is called ossification. You know, the doctor looks at your leg and is like, you still got some growing to do. They're just looking at how much cartilage you have left. That's all they do. There's these things called growth plates. You don't need to know what they're called, but they show you that's when the cartilage is all gone, you're done growing. That's kind of how that works. Ossification. Moving on. There's 5 kinds of joints you need to know. 4 kinds of joints you need to know. There is the ball and socket joint. You can kind of see it on this picture, I think, upper right-hand corner. This is going to be like shoulder, hip socket. This is going to be kind of a ball and socket type joint. Hinge joint is going to be kind of like a joint that like opens and closes, like a knee or an elbow. Saddle joint. This is going to be where one bone kind of sits or rests on another one. It kind of slides around, thinking of like sitting on a saddle on a horse. I don't know, it's kind of a weird name. This would be like the thumb to the hand. There's a couple of other examples of this, but that's usually the one that's used the most. And then immovable joints. This will be like the joints in your skull. Yeah, skull's made up of multiple bones, and they all don't move. They stopped moving a long time ago, which is probably good. And then ligaments. What are ligaments? These are connective tissues that connect bone to bone. Bone to bone ligaments. That LIG is going to be used again next unit, I think. So remember that. Muscular system was the purpose of the muscular system to move things. So we talked about different kinds of muscles. Muscular system is specifically talking about skeletal muscles used to move the body. There are different kinds of muscles. There's involuntary and voluntary. So the involuntary muscles, these are going to be like your smooth muscles. This is going to be like your cardiac muscle. These are muscles that move on their own. When you swallow food, you don't have to tell the food to go down to your stomach. It just squeezes down there. What squeezes it? Esophagus, stomach. You get the idea. Voluntary. It's like when you see a pencil and you pick it up. That's you choose to do that. It requires your conscious input, voluntary muscle, versus involuntary. You don't have to think about, your heart beating or anything like that. And then tendons. Tendons connect muscle to bone. Ligaments, bone to bone. Tendons, muscle to bone. They're not the same thing. I promise. And students always get them mixed up. I'll have a test question that'll be one of those two things, and students literally every time get them mixed up. Don't get them mixed up. They're not hard. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how muscle contraction works. Trust me, this is complicated. We're not getting into the complicated part. There's these two filaments, actin and myosin. Actin is considered the thin filament. It's the blue on this picture. And myosin is the thick filament. It's like the reddish, pinkish. All right, and so what happens is myosin actually grabs a hold of actin and pulls it. And so the actin on the left and the actin on the right are going to get closer to the center. And what's it going to cause to do? It's going to cause that whole little unit there to get shorter. What's another word for get shorter? Contract, right? And so we talk about muscles contracting has to do with these actin filaments sliding past the myosin filaments in order to get shorter. That's all I'm going to have you know. This is typically called the sliding filament theory, which makes sense, right? And it's a lot more complicated. One more thing I do want to add, though, is that it requires ATP in order for those filaments to release. And so without ATP, those filaments will kind of hang on. It's like a cramp or something, right? It kind of hangs on, it doesn't let go. And so with ATP, it lets go and allows for a deeper contraction or to release and to allow you to relax your muscles. What's next? Integumentary system. The integument is your skin. Skin is the largest organ of the body. You've probably heard that before. It's very big. Produces everything, hair, nails, a few types of glands that are going to be found in the integument. There are two main anatomical divisions of the integumentary system. They are the epidermis, which is the outermost layer, and the dermis. You see the subcutaneous tissue there. I don't care that you know the subcutaneous tissue. You just need to know the epidermis, outermost layer, and the dermis, the undermost layer. All right, so a couple things. Epidermis produces this protein called keratin. Keratin is what hair and nails are made out of. This picture's kind of weird, but literally if you search keratin, you get like a bunch of pictures of like shampoo. And so I just wanted a picture of like how nails were made or hair was made, but there wasn't anything out there. So then you get like duck beaks and horns and hooves. All those things are made out of keratin, by the way. And those animals' epidermises produce those structures just like our epidermis produces our hair and nails, which is made out of keratin. Moving on. The dermis, second layer, has two glands. Sweat glands, which produce sweat. That was easy. And sebaceous glands, which produce this kind of oily substance. You don't need to know that. Keeps the skin from drying out. Keeps the skin protected. That's good. That's it on this one.